Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to learn about the material master tables and how field selection works in the material master. In our previous video, we discussed material type configuration and number range settings. In this video, we'll explore the different tables that store material master data, understand how SAP organizes multiple fields across these tables, and we'll see how you can control field selection when maintaining the material master data. So let's start. So as you can see on the screen, for material master, you have multiple tables in SAP which store the material master data. As we have discussed in our previous videos also, a material master contains data on multiple levels. That is, you will have multiple fields which you will maintain at client level. Then you will have multiple fields which you will maintain at plant level, storage location level, and so on. So for each of those fields which are there in your material master, SAP has given multiple tables which will store all those fields depending upon the type of data that you are storing in that particular field. So whenever you will be maintaining data in a material master, basically you will be maintaining multiple fields in all these tables depending upon what type of data you are maintaining. So you can see here the first table which is mentioned here is MARA, that is for general material data. That is the data which is available across the client. That is the data which is applicable for the material for the whole organization. Then you have table MAKT, which is for material descriptions. As mentioned in our earlier videos also, that you can maintain descriptions of your material in multiple languages. So you have this table MAKT, which actually stores all those descriptions based on particular language. Then you have MARM for unit of measurements. In our previous videos, we have already discussed that you can maintain multiple unit of measurements for a material. So this is the table which stores all those unit of measurements for a particular material code. Then you have this very important table, that is MARC, which basically saves the plant data for material. That is data which is relevant for a particular plant. That data is stored in this MARC table. Mainly it stores the purchasing, MRP data, and other data which is applicable at plant level. Then you have MARD, which is for storage location data. That is the data which is applicable at the storage location level, that is saved in this table MARD. Then you have table MBEW, that is for material valuation. As we saw in our previous videos also, that when you maintain your accounting data in your material master, you have to basically enter the valuation class, the price control, the moving average prices. So all that data is stored in this table MBEW. Then you have sales data for material table, that is MVKE. Here you can save the sales related data for the material. Then you have these two tables, that is for tax classification and material data for warehouse number. So you can see here you have multiple tables in SAP where material data is stored. Depending upon what kind of data you're storing, system decides which table it has to store, and in that particular field the data is stored when you maintain your material master. And you can see you have this column here which mentions key fields with description. So what is a key field? So whenever you will be maintaining any material master data, you will be maintaining data in a particular table. Every table has a combination of key fields. A key field is basically a field based on which a unique record is saved in a particular table. Let's say that you are maintaining the basic data of a material. So this particular data is valid across the client. So your key field shall be the material number only, because for each material number, you will have a unique record. Then if you're saving the plant related data, then you can see you have key fields as material number and the plant. So based on combination of material number and plant, you will save a unique record for that particular material master. Similarly, for MARD, you can see here you save the storage location data. So you have three key fields, that is material number, plant, and storage location. So based on a unique combination of material number, plant, and storage location, you will have a unique record in this particular table MARD. So you can see for each of these table, you have various different key fields based on which you will maintain the data. You can see in the material description which key field you will have. You will have material number and a language key. So as we saw in our previous videos also, that when you maintain multiple description, you have to mention the language key and the particular description of that material. So here what key fields will be there? The key fields shall be the language key and the material number. So in this way, you can see all these tables have their particular key fields. When you maintain data in a particular field which belongs to any of these tables, you have to enter the minimum data which is required for these key fields. Let's say that you are maintaining the purchasing data in a material master. So the purchasing data is basically the planned data for that particular material, which is stored in this particular table MARC. So to save the purchasing data, minimum what you have to enter is the material number and the plant code. We already have seen in our previous video where we saw how you can maintain data in a material master. There we have seen that depending upon the view that you select in the material master creation transaction, system will give you pop-up to enter the particular organizational element. That organizational element is decided from the field which you are maintaining. Because a particular field is attached to a particular table, that table has multiple key fields. So you have to enter the key field data, then only you can maintain that particular field in that particular table. Okay, so you can see here for sales data, you have material number, sales organization, and distribution channel. For material valuation, you have material number and valuation area. Now, in our video on valuated, non-valuated, and non-stock material, we already have discussed what is called valuation area. Now, normally in almost all the organizations, the valuation area is kept as plant only. So, when you will be maintaining the accounting data of the material, system will ask you to enter the plant code, which basically will mean the valuation area only. So this particular MBEW table has the key field as material number and valuation area. So when you enter the plant code in the input screen and you maintain the accounting data of the material, basically you are maintaining the data in this particular table MBEW with the combination of the material number and the valuation area, which is basically the plant code. Okay. So in this way, we have understood that every table which stores the data of a material master has certain key fields. When you are maintaining any field in the material master, system will check that that particular field belongs to which table, and in that table, system will check what all key fields are there. You will have to enter those key fields in the screen first, and then only you will be able to maintain that particular field in your material master. We'll see all these tables in SAP, then it will become more clear to you. Now let's see what is called field selection in the material master maintenance process. So what is field selection? So as you can see here, during material master record maintenance, you can specify the field selection settings for each field of the material master. Whenever you will be maintaining the material master, for each of the field, you can specify in the system whether that field shall be hidden, display, or ready for input. You can see here, you can allow any of the following settings, that is hidden, display, or ready for input. Now, what does hidden mean? If you have marked a field as hidden, then that particular field will not be visible on the screen. Okay, so you'll not be able to maintain any data in that particular field, and you will not be able to view that field also on the screen while maintaining the material master. Then you can mark a field as display. Now, what does display mean? Display means that you will not be able to enter any data in that field, but that field will be displayed on the screen. Okay, so you will be able to see the contents of that field, but you will not be able to change anything in that field. Then you have ready for input. Now, what is ready for input? Ready for input means that that field will be ready for input. You will be able to make entries in that particular field. And in this setting, you have two options. One is optional and another one is mandatory. Now, what does optional mean? If a field is marked as optional, then you can either enter any data in that field or keep that field as blank also. But if you mark that field as mandatory, then you will have to mandatorily enter the data in that particular field. Otherwise, you will not be able to save your material master. Okay, so you have these four options, that is, your field can either be hidden or display or optional or mandatory. And this setting we can configure in the system, which we'll be learning today in this video. Now let's understand what is called field selection groups. Now in SAP, for material master, we have multiple fields which you will be maintaining. Now, SAP does not allow you to do field selection for individual fields. What SAP has done, SAP has combined multiple fields into one entity that is called as field selection group. So fields which are of similar nature have been combined in something called as field selection group, and you are allowed to configure the field selection against this field selection group only. Okay, so you cannot do field selection for an individual field. What you can do, you can find out the field selection group to which that particular field is assigned, and then you can do the field selection for that particular field selection group only. Okay, so you can see here we have these three fields, that is size or dimension, standard description, and basic material. All these three fields are lying in this table MARA, and what SAP has done, SAP has combined all these three fields in a standard field selection group numbered 14. Okay, so what essentially you can do, you cannot do field selection for these fields individually. What you have to do is you have to find to which field selection group this field belongs, and then you can do field selection for this particular field selection group only. Similarly, you can see you have these two fields, that is unit of max storage period and maximum storage period. These two fields are lying in MARC table. These two fields are assigned to the field selection group 80. So if you have to do field selection for any of these fields, then you have to do the field selection against this field selection group 80. And whatever setting you will do against the field selection group, same setting will apply to all the fields which belong to this field selection group. So if you do configuration for this field selection group 80 as mandatory, then both these fields will become mandatory in the material master. Now what you can do is you can change the assignment of any field to the field selection group through configuration, and then you can do field selection as per your requirement. Now you can see here in S4 HANA, there are 240 field selection groups which are provided by SAP. So you can understand that you cannot do field selection for individual fields. What you have to do, you have to find to which field selection group that particular field is assigned, and then you will be able to mark the field selection for that particular field selection groups only. We'll see in SAP how these field selection groups are arranged in SAP and how fields are assigned to those field selection groups, and then how we can do the field selection against those field selection groups. Okay. Now let's understand what all influencing factors are there for field selection. So we have understood that you can do field selection for field selection groups, but what all influencing factors have been provided by SAP based on which you can do this field selection. So you can see here on the screen, there are basically 6 influencing factors through which you can do this particular field selection. That is, you can configure the field selection through these 6 influencing factors. And what are these influencing factors? You have transaction, material type, industry sector, plant, procurement indicator, and SAP delivery. So all these influencing factors are there in SAP based on which you can configure your field selection for a particular field. Now let's see what is called field reference and how a field reference is assigned to these influencing factors. So as we saw in the previous slide, you can do field selection based on 6 influencing factors. Now, each of these influencing factors are assigned to something called as field reference. You can see here, each of these influencing factors are assigned to their respective field reference. And against this field reference for a field selection group, you will configure the field selection setting. That is, your field will be there in a field selection group. Now, if you want to mark that field as mandatory, optional, display, or hidden, then you will do that based on a particular influencing factor. That influencing factor will be connected to something called as a field reference. Now, as you can see on the screen, out of these 6 influencing factors, there are 3 influencing factors for which SAP has predefined the field reference. That is, you cannot configure the field reference for these 3 influencing factors. That is transaction, procurement indicator, and SAP delivery. Now, all these 3 influencing factors have their own field reference, which is predefined by SAP. You will find them in the configuration, but you will not be able to change them. Okay. Now, these 3 factors, that is material type, plant, and industry sector, for these 3 influencing factors, you will be able to define your own field reference. we already have seen in the material type configuration that you had a field called field reference in the configuration of material type. So that particular field in the configuration of material type is basically a field reference to this influencing factor, that is material type. So for these three influencing factors, that is material type, plant and industry sector, you will be able to define your own field reference. And based on that, you can define the field selection. But for these three factors, that is transaction, procurement indicator, and SAP delivery, you will have predefined field references which you can use to define the field selection for your field selection groups. Okay. So you can see here configuration of assignment of field reference can be done for material type, industry sector, and plant only. Assignment of field reference for transaction code, procurement indicator, and SAP delivery are predefined and cannot be configured by the end user. Okay. So you can see here how you do the field selection. First, you have these material fields which are assigned to the field selection group. And this field selection group you can mark as either mandatory, optional, display, or hidden based on the factors of influence. So you can see here on this screen, we have given these two factor of influence, that is material type, transaction, but you can use other influencing factors also. Each influencing factor will have its own field reference, and based on the combination of field selection group and factor of influence, you will mark that particular field selection setting against that field selection group. So in SAP, you will be able to see a tabular kind of structure where you will have a field selection group at the top, for which you will have multiple factor of influences, that is field references. Based on this field reference, you can mark the field selection setting for each field selection group. Okay, we'll see in SAP and then it will become more clear to you. But you have to understand there are two variables. One is the field selection group, which basically contains the field of the material master. And another one is the field reference, which is assigned to a particular factor of influence. Okay. And based on these two variables, your field selection settings are configured in the system. Now let's understand what are field attributes and link rules. As we saw in the previous slide, for a particular field selection group, you have multiple field references, that is multiple influencing factors. Now for each influencing factor, you can mark different field selections. So how system will finally determine what field selection is to be taken into consideration. Okay, let's take an example. Let's say that for a particular field, you have marked the setting such that for material type ROH, the field shall be optional. And for industry type M, that is for mechanical engineering, the field shall be mandatory. Now let's say that you are creating a material with material type ROH and industry type M. So you have a combination of these two field selections. So how system will decide what field selection is to be triggered for that particular field? Because for material type ROH, that field is configured as optional entry, and for industry M, that field is configured as mandatory entry. So if you combine these two things, then what will be the field selection for that particular field? So for that, we'll have to understand the link rules of these field selection. Okay. So to understand the link rule, first we'll have to understand the priority based on which SAP determines this field selection. So you can see you have this priority available in the system. That is, a hidden field has the highest priority, then display, then mandatory, then optional. Okay, so if you have a field marked as hidden and in another setting you have that field marked as either of these three, when the system will combine these two settings, then system will mark that field as hidden only. Okay, so you have a priority in the system through which system will determine what field selection will be there if you have multiple settings being called by the system on the screen. So you can see here this table gives an example of how these combinations work in the system. So you can see you have this field selection for material type ROH, all these four options are there, and you have field selection for industry M, all these four options are there. Now, whenever you combine this setting, that is hidden setting, with any of these settings, that is hidden, display, mandatory, or optional, then system will mark that field as hidden only. Okay, so if you combine two settings, then this hidden will have the highest priority And if this hidden is combined with any of these settings, then your field will become hidden. Then if you have this display, then display if combined with hidden will mark the field as hidden because hidden has higher priority than display. Then if display is combined with display, then you will have a display field. If display is combined with mandatory, then you have a display field. And if display is combined with optional, you will have a display field. Okay, so this display is the second priority that system decides. Then you have mandatory. So if mandatory combined with hidden, the field will become hidden. Mandatory combined with display, the field will become display. Mandatory combined with mandatory, the field will become mandatory. And if mandatory is combined with optional, then field will become mandatory. Why? Because mandatory has a higher priority than optional. You can see here, mandatory has a higher priority than optional. So if your field selection is such that for industry M, you have field selection as mandatory, and for material type ROH, you have field selection as optional. Then combining these two field selections will mark that field as mandatory only. Okay, so you can see here for combination of mandatory and optional, the field will become mandatory. And finally, if you combine optional with any of these four settings, then you will have the same setting available here because optional has the lowest priority. So you can see in this case for material type ROH, you have field selection as optional for a particular field, and for industry M, you have field selection as mandatory for a particular field. So if these two are combined, that is, if you create a material master by selecting material type ROH and industry M, then for that particular field, the field selection will become mandatory. Okay, so optional and mandatory combined will mark the field as mandatory. So you have to understand this priority first, and then you have to do the configuration so that your required field selection is achieved in the system. Okay, so there are multiple influencing factors. Based on each influencing factor, you can mark your field, and based on this priority and the combination, system will finally decide what will be the status of that particular field when you will be maintaining the material master. So in this way, we have understood the field selection for a particular field in material master maintenance, and we also have seen what all tables are there in SAP for these material master fields. Now let's see in SAP how we can do field selection for any of these fields of the material master. So let's move on to SAP now and see everything in action. So first of all, we'll see the tables which are there in SAP for material master. So to see any table, we'll go to T code SE16N. And the first table that we'll see is MARA, that is for general data for material. So we'll enter MARA here and we'll press enter. So you can see the table MARA stands for general material data. And you can see in this table, you have all these fields available. So whenever you're maintaining material master and you're entering data in any of these fields, system will basically save that information in this particular table. And you can see here, this particular field, that is MATNR, that is for material, is highlighted here. So why this is highlighted? Because this is the key field for this particular table. Okay. So as we discussed that for table MARA, which contains client level data for a material, you have only one key field, that is the material number. And you can see the client also has been marked as a key field. So for all the tables, you will always have client as a key field. That is, you are always maintaining data at client level. So in all the tables, you will find this client field as a key field. And here in this table MARA, you are basically maintaining the client level data for a particular material. So for every combination of client and material, you will have a unique record in this table. In turn, for every material, you will have a unique record in this table for each client. So if you're working with multiple clients, let's say that you have a development client, then a quality assurance client and a production client, then for each client for a particular material number, if you have the same material number across these clients, you may have different data. Okay. But whenever you're working in a particular client, then this table MARA will contain the client level data for that particular material. Okay, so you can see all these fields are client level fields which you will maintain in the material master, and basically system will maintain that data in this table MARA. Now let's see another table, that is MARC. This is for plant level data. So you can see this is plant data for material. And here you can see you have two key fields, that is material number and plant code. You can see here you have these two fields highlighted, that is material code and plant code. So this particular table contains the plant level data, and hence for a combination of material and plant, you will have a unique record in this particular table. So whenever you are maintaining any plant level data in the material master, system basically saves that data in this table MARC. Okay, so you can see, for example, the MRP type. So if you save the MRP type in the MRP view, first you will have to enter the plant code. Once you enter the plant code, then you will maintain the MRP type. So basically system will save that particular data for the MRP type in this table MARC against your material and plant code combination. Okay. Then if you go to MBEW, this is the valuation data for the material. So this table basically contains the valuation data, and you have these three key fields, that is material, valuation area, and valuation type. Now this valuation type is basically for split valuation materials. We'll discuss split valuation in our subsequent videos. There you will see that for split valuation, you have another variable which is called valuation type. So this particular table basically contains data for the combination of material number, valuation area, and valuation type. For materials where split valuation is not activated, this valuation type shall be kept as blank. Okay. So normally for materials which do not have split valuation, you have these two key fields, that is material number and valuation area, which is normally kept as plant only. So whenever you are maintaining the accounting data, you will have to enter the plant code, and system will enter that accounting data like valuation class, price control, or valuation price in this table MBEW only. Okay. So similarly, you can verify other tables also and see what all key fields are there in those tables. And whenever you maintain any data in the material master, you can verify that data in the corresponding table also through this T code SE16N. Okay, now let's see for these fields how we can do the field selection configurations. Okay, so to go to the field selection configuration, we'll go to SPRO, SAP reference IMG, logistics general, material master, and you can see you have this field selection option. So you'll go to this option, and first setting that we have to see here is assign fields to field selection groups. So as we discussed earlier, you cannot do field selection setting for individual fields. What you have to do, you have to see to which field selection group your field has been assigned, and you can do field selection setting for field selection groups only. So this is the link through which you can see which field selection group your field has been assigned. Okay, so let's open this particular link here. So you can see first column is field name in full, then short description, and you have field selection group here. So you can see this field name basically contains the table name and then that field name. So if you scroll down, you can see you have these fields from the table MARA, that is client level data for the material. So you have first this table name and then this field name. So this particular field is basically for authorization group. Then this particular field is for container requirements. Then this field is for old material number. Let's verify this by displaying a particular material. So we'll go to MM03. Let's enter a material code here and let's press enter. Now let's select basic data one first and we'll press enter. Now this particular tab contains the client level data because we have not entered any organizational element. So you have material code, then description, then unit of measurement, then there is a field called old material number. Now if you want to know the technical name of this field and to which table this particular field belongs, you have to press F1 on this particular field here. So we'll press F1 and you can see this pop-up gives a description of this particular field. And to find the technical information, you can click on this icon here. You can see here it says technical information. Let's click on this icon. And here you can see the table name is MARA and the field name is BISM. So basically this particular field, which stands for old material number, has a technical name as BISMT, and this field lies in the table MARA. So if you open that table, let's open that table first. So we'll go to SE16N and we'll enter MARA. We'll click on this find icon here and we'll have to enter BISMT here and we'll press enter. So you can see this old material number has a technical name as BISMT. And this lies in the table MARA, and we can verify it from the material master display screen also. You can see you have table name MARA and field name as BISMT for this particular old material number field. To go to this screen, what we did, we basically kept our cursor on this field, then we press F1, and then we have to go to this technical information button here, and here we can see which table this particular field belongs and what is the technical name of this particular field. Okay, so once you have found this particular technical name, then you have to search it here to find which field selection group this particular field belongs. So you can see here this MARA BISMT, that is old material number, is assigned to field selection group 11. Okay, so in this way you can find to which field selection group your field is assigned. Now to search this particular entry in this table, what you have to do, you have to go to table view and click on print, and from here you can click on this icon here and then you can enter MARA dash BISMT, okay, and you can click OK. And you can see system has found this particular field here, and this is assigned to field selection group 11. So if you go back, you can verify that this particular field was assigned to field selection group 11. And if you want to find which all other field have been assigned to this field selection group, then you can click on this icon here that says field selection maintenance. And from here, you can see this field selection group has been assigned to only one field, that is MARA BISMT. Okay, if you go back, let's open this field selection group 18. So we'll click here. And you can see this field selection group 18 contains these many fields. That is, this particular field selection group is assigned to these many fields of your material master. You can see here, if you scroll down, you can see all these fields have been assigned to this field selection group. And you will be doing field selection for this field selection group only, which will basically do field selection settings for all these fields combined together. Okay, so now let's go back. And here you can see you have sort and position option for these field names and the field selection group. So if you want to sort against this column, then you can click on this icon here. So basically system will sort on this particular column. If you want to sort on this column, that is field selection group, then you can click on this icon here and system will sort on this particular selection group. So in this way you can sort on these two columns and then find out what all field selection group have been configured and what all fields are there in each of these field selection groups. So you can see under field selection group 18, you had these many fields here. Okay. Then under field selection group 19, you have these many fields. If you go up, you can see under field selection group 15, you have these two fields. Okay, if you go further up, you can see under field selection group 14, you have these three fields that we discussed earlier in our video also. That is the size or dimension, industry standard, and basic material. These three fields are assigned to field selection group 14. Okay, then if you want to directly go to any of these field, then you can click on this icon and enter that field here. So we'll enter MARA dash BISMT. And if we press enter, system will directly send you to this particular field here and you can find out the field selection group. If you want to go to a particular field selection group directly, then you can click on this icon here and you have to enter the field selection group here. So let's enter 14 here and we'll press enter. And you can see system has sent me to this particular field selection group to which these three fields are assigned. Okay. Now let's see how we can do the field selection for these field selection groups. So to do the field selection, we'll go back and we'll click on this particular link here, that is maintain field selection for data screens. So if you go to this link, you can see you have a field selection group here under which these three fields are there. And for this field selection group, you have these four options here, that is hide, display, required entry, and optional entry. All these four we already have discussed that what is the meaning of these four settings. And all these settings you can do against any of these field references. Okay, so as we discussed earlier, you have a field selection group and a field reference. Based on combination of this field selection group and field reference, you can mark a particular field selection group as hidden, display, required entry or mandatory or optional entry. Okay. Now, what is this field reference? So as we have discussed earlier, you have basically 6 influencing factors which decide the field selection. So each of those 6 influencing factors are assigned to something called as field reference. Okay. And against this field reference, you can mark that particular field selection group as any of these 4 settings. Okay. So how you can find to which influencing factor a particular field reference is attached? So to know that, you have to click on this icon here. So you can see you have a field reference 0001. So to know to which particular influencing factor this field reference is assigned, you have to click on this icon here. And you can see system tells you the field reference is 0001, and system tells you the field reference is referenced in 4 of 363 material types. The field reference is referenced in 1 of 10 industry sectors, and the field reference is referenced in 10 of 171 plants. Okay. So basically, out of the 6 influencing factors that we discussed earlier, this particular field reference is attached to 3 influencing factors. And what are those 3 influencing factors? First is the material type, then the industry sector and the plant. And this particular field reference is attached to these 4 material types and this industry sector. And if you want to find to which plants also this field reference is assigned, for that we'll have to go back and we'll have to click on this particular link here, that is define plant specific field selection and plant specific screen selection. So if we execute this, you can see this field reference 0001 is assigned to these many plants. Okay, so let's go back again and we'll click on this icon again. Now you have all these field references which are basically assigned to any of those 6 influencing factors. And based on these field references, you can do the setting for field selection. So as we discussed earlier, out of those 6 influencing factors, there are 3 influencing factors for which SAP has predefined the field reference. So let's see some of those field references. So let's scroll down. And you can see you have a field reference as MM01. Now let's see where this particular field reference is assigned. So if we click on this particular button here, you can see this MM01 is referenced in these many transactions. Okay, so this is what SAP has predefined, which cannot be configured by the end user. So whenever you will call these transactions, system will automatically determine this field reference. And if you have done any field selection against this MM01, then system will call that particular field selection setting. Okay, so as we discussed, the field reference have been predefined for transactions and have been assigned by SAP only. This particular assignment cannot be changed by the end user. System will automatically determine that particular reference and then will check what all field selections have been done. So if you do any field selection against this field reference MM01, then whenever you call these transactions, that is whenever you enter these transactions and then maintain the material master data, system will basically call this particular reference and then see what is the field selection done for a particular field selection group. Okay, let's see some more system defined field references. So if we scroll down, you can see here, these are basically the field references for particular transactions. If you click on this button also, you can see this MM03 is assigned to these 4 transaction codes. Okay, then if you again scroll down, you can see these are the SAP delivered field references. Okay, if you click on this particular icon here, it will tell you that the field reference SAP1 is referenced client wide. The field reference may be maintained only by SAP. So you have some SAP delivered field references also against which the field selections have been predefined by SAP. Okay, so in this way, every field reference is assigned to any of those influencing factors. If you are doing any field selection, you have to make sure that that particular field reference is assigned to your required influencing factor. So if you see ROH here, first you have to click on this icon and you have to see this ROH is reference to all these material types. So if you do any field selection for this ROH here, then basically for all these material types, that field selection will be triggered by the system. So you can see this ROH is referenced in these many material types, and it is also referenced in one industry sector. So whenever you are doing any field selection, first you have to verify what all entities are assigned to that particular field reference, and then you have to do the field selection. Now, if you want to create your own field reference, then you have to click on new entries here, and let's enter field reference as Z1 here, and we'll press enter, and let's save this field reference. Now our field reference has been created. Now, as we discussed earlier, we can assign a particular field reference to three influencing factors only, that is material type, industry sector, and plant. So how we can assign it? So to assign this field reference to your material type, what we can do, we can go to the material type settings. So we'll go back and we'll go to basic setting, and we'll go to define attributes of material type. We'll go to our custom material type that we created in our previous video. So we'll go to YROH here. We'll double click here, and you can see you have this field here for field reference. So here we can enter our new field reference that we created just now. So we'll enter Z1 here, and we'll save. So you can see we have assigned our material type to this field reference, which we created in the previous step. Now let's go back. Now, what is the next influencing factor to which we can assign our field reference? That is the industry sector. So to assign a field reference to industry sector, you have to go to this link here, that is define industry sectors and industry sector specific field selection. So we'll go to this link here, and here you will find all the list of industry sectors which are there in your system. You can create a new industry sector also here, or you can assign an existing industry sector to your field reference that you have created just now. So what we'll do, let's create our own industry sector here. So we'll click on new entry, we'll enter Z here. Let's give an industry description. So we'll enter food industry. And here we'll enter the field reference that we created just now. So we'll enter Z1 here, and we'll press enter, and we'll save this particular entry. So now what we have done, we have created our own industry sector, and we have assigned the field reference to this industry sector. This field reference we created in the previous step. So again, we'll go back. And now what is the third influencing factor to which we can assign a field reference? That is the plant code. So for that, we have this link here, define plant specific field selection. So let's execute this. And here we'll select this particular entry. We'll click on copy. We'll enter our plant code here, and we'll enter the field reference as Z1 here, and we'll save. So in this way, I have shown you how you can create your own field reference, and then how you can assign to those three influencing factors, that is your material type, industry sector, and plant code. Okay. Now, if you want to verify whether that particular field reference has been assigned or not, then we can again go to this particular link here, maintain field selection for data screens. And if we click on this position here, let's enter our field reference here, Z1, and we'll press enter. And you can see this is the field reference that we created just now. If we click on this icon here, now you can see this Z1 is assigned to this material type, this industry sector, and this plant code. Okay, so in this way, we created a field reference, and then we assigned this field reference to our custom material type, industry sector, and plant code. This industry sector we just created now, and then assign this field reference, and we also assign this field reference to this particular plant code. Okay, so in this way, you can create your own field reference also, and then assign to any of those three influencing factors, that is material type, industry sector, and plant code. Other three influencing factors, that is transaction code, procurement type, and SAP delivered field references, you cannot change. You can only use them to do the field selection. Now let's see how we can do the field selection based on these field references and field selection group. So what we'll do the field selection for field selection group 14, as we discussed in our video earlier. So we'll select 14 here, and we'll press enter. So you can see under field selection group 14, you have these three fields, that is size or dimension, industry standard description, and basic material. Now, For this field selection group, we can mark these fields as hide, display, required entry or optional entry for any of these field references which are available in this column. So let's mark this particular field selection group as mandatory for our newly created field reference, that is Z1. Now, once we save this particular configuration, what will happen? First, system will check what all influencing factors are assigned to this field reference, and then system will mark these three fields as mandatory in the material maintenance screen. Let's verify that. So we'll save this configuration first. And you can see this field reference is assigned to these three factors, that is this material type YROH, industry sector Z, and plant M001. So let's create a material first. So we'll go to MM01. We'll select industry as mechanical engineering and we'll enter material type as YROH here. So what we have done, we have selected one of those influencing factors to which our field reference Z1 is assigned, that is the material type. So let's press enter and let's select basic data 1 and press enter. So you can see this size or dimension field is a mandatory field which is coming up here. Now why system is doing this? System is doing this because of this configuration here. You can see here for field reference Z1, this particular size or dimension field is a mandatory field which is there in this field selection group 14. So all these three fields will become mandatory for this field reference Z1, and hence for this particular material type YROH, we are finding this particular field as mandatory. Now let's enter some description here. Let's enter a base unit of measurement, a material group, and let's enter some data here and we'll press enter. So system is asking you to save this material master. Let's click on yes. Now you see, although I only selected this tab basic data 1 in the input screen, system is sending me to this basic data 2 tab also. And why this is happening? Because I have two more fields which have been marked as mandatory by field selection configuration. And what are those two fields? Those are industry standard description and basic material. And why these two fields are mandatory here? Because of this configuration that we did here. That is for field reference Z1, the field selection group 14 has been marked as mandatory. That is all these three fields. Now this field was there in the basic data 1 tab. So I entered data in this particular field in the basic data 1 tab only. But these two fields are lying in the basic data 2 tab. You can see here in the basic data 2 tab, these two fields are there. So unless I fill this particular data, I cannot save the material code. Okay, in the next video, we'll learn how you can place all these fields in different tabs and what is called screen configuration. But you can understand that when we mark this particular field selection group as mandatory, which contain these three fields, system is forcing you to enter data in these three fields. Then only you will be able to save this particular material master. Okay, so in this way, you can see we triggered this particular configuration. Now let's go back. We'll go to MM01 again and let's select a different material type. So we'll enter ROH here and let's press enter. And this time we'll select basic data 1 and we'll press enter. Now you can see the size or dimension field is optional. That is, this field is no more mandatory. And why this is happening? Because this time I have selected material type as ROH and my industry sector has been selected as M here. If you again go to MM01, you can see I selected industry sector as M and material type is ROH. So based on these two combinations, system is trying to find out the field reference, and through that system is finding that this particular field is an optional field. So if you want to verify, then you have to go to the material type configuration and this industry configuration, find out the field references and then check for those field references what is the current field selection configuration. Okay, now let's keep this material type as ROH and we'll select industry as Z here that we created just now. Let's press enter and we'll select basic data 1 and again we'll press enter. Now you see this field again becomes mandatory. Now why this is happening? In material type ROH, I do not have the configuration for this field to become mandatory. But in my industry type Z, I have the field reference Z1, which has the field selection configuration against which this field is marked as mandatory. So as we discussed earlier, If you have two configurations, one is for optional and one is for mandatory, then if those two configurations are combined together, system will finally mark this field as mandatory only. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll change this particular field as display for material type ROH. We'll come back to this screen and then see what happens. Okay, so we'll again go to this configuration. And for material type ROH, we'll have to find what is the field reference. So for that, we'll have to go to the material type configuration. So we'll go to OMS2. We'll enter ROH here. We'll double click here. And you can see for ROH material type, the field reference is ROH. So we'll go to this configuration and we'll enter ROH here. So you can see this is the field reference ROH. For this particular field reference, for field selection group 14, we'll mark this as display here. Okay. So now what we have done for material type ROH, we have marked this particular field selection group as display. For field reference Z1, which is referenced in our industry type Z, we have marked this particular field as mandatory. Let's verify that also. We'll enter Z1 and we'll press enter. And you can see for field reference Z1, this particular field selection group has been marked as mandatory. Okay. Now let's save this configuration. Now let's again go to MM01 transaction and let's create the material with the combination of industry sector Z and material type ROH. So we'll go to MM01 and let's select industry as Z and material type is ROH. Now what configurations we have done? For industry sector Z, we have marked the field selection group 14 as mandatory entry, and for material type ROH, we have marked the field selection group 14 as display. Okay, so now let's see how system behaves. So we'll press enter. We'll select basic data 1 and we'll again press enter. And you can see now this particular field, that is size or dimension field, has become a display field. So as we discussed earlier, a display field setting has a higher priority than a mandatory field setting. So although we have made that field mandatory for industry type Z, because we made that field as display for material type ROH, so system marked this field as display only. If we enter details on this screen, and if you go to basic data 2, you can find these two fields also have been marked as display. Okay, so all these three fields, that is this particular field, that is size or dimension, and this field, industry standard description and basic material, all these three fields which are lying in the field selection group 14 has been marked as display, because for material type ROH, we have marked this as display, and for industry sector Z, we had marked this as mandatory. And both these settings combined has made these fields as display only. Okay, so in this way, you can do field selection against multiple field references. System will find out in which priority those field selections have been done. And based on that only, system will present that field on the screen accordingly. Okay, now if you want to again verify the setting from scratch, then what you can do, you can click F1 on any of this field. You can click on this particular icon here and you can see the table name is MARA and field name is WRKST. So let's copy this particular field name. And again, we'll go to this configuration. We'll go back. We'll again go to this particular configuration, that is assign fields to field selection groups. We'll go to table view, print, and we'll click on this find icon and we'll enter MARA dash and we'll paste that particular field name and we'll click on OK. So you can see this particular field is assigned to field selection group number 14. So we'll go back. We'll again go back and we'll execute this particular link, that is maintain field selection for data screens. We'll enter field selection group as 14 here. We'll press enter. And now if you want to see what all field selections have been done against this field selection group in the predefined hierarchy, then you can select on this particular radio button here, that is by field selection. And you can see system will show you all the field reference in the given hierarchy. So you can see system will arrange the field selection settings in this hierarchical manner. So you have hide, display, required entry, and optional entry in this hierarchy, and you have this field reference. So first system will show you all the field references for which this field selection group is in hidden mode. Okay. So for these field references, this particular field group is hidden. Then system will show you all the field references for which the field is in display mode. So you can see these field references are there for which this particular field selection group is in display mode. So you can see for our field reference ROH, which has been marked to material type ROH, has the setting as display for this field selection group. Then system will show you all the field references for which this particular field selection group is marked as required entry. So you can see this particular field reference Z1 has this required entry setting. Then finally, system will show you all the field references for which this field selection group is marked as optional entry. Okay, so you can see system has sorted in this manner, that is in this hierarchy for all the field references. So you can find for which field references this particular field selection group is hidden, then display, then required, then optional. Okay, so by selecting this particular radio button, system will basically sort the field references in this particular system hierarchy of field selection settings. So in this way, we have understood how you can do field selection of all the material master fields. You can define your own field references for material type, plant and industry sector. For other three influencing factors, that is transaction, procurement type, and SAP delivered field references, you cannot define the field reference through configuration, but you can do the field selection configurations. So in this way, we have discussed the field selection configuration and the material master tables. I would recommend you to practice this. I hope that you have understood this concept, and I hope that you've liked this video. In our next video, we'll understand about the screen configurations, that how you can place these fields on multiple tabs, and what is called a screen and a sub-screen in the material master maintenance transaction. Okay, so see you in the next video. Till then, thank you so much for supporting me. Thanks a lot.